Let's talk more optimistically about the New Jersey Devils, shall we? Because I mentioned it momentarily in the previous episode, which is their future is very bright in terms of their overall development, but let's make it a full-fledged episode, shall we? So buckle up, there's a lot to talk about.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast from the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Chalky, play-by-play announcer, and also Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, Trey Matthews. And the last few episodes, in my eyes, have been somewhat pessimistic because I talked about the New Jersey Devils couple games from this past weekend. I talked about their loss against the Washington Capitals. I talked about their win against Montreal Canadiens. I said the common denominator, even dating back to that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs about a week ago, I said that the one thing that all those games have in common is that the New Jersey Devils just don't know how to hold on to a lead. They are notoriously known for blowing leads. And, I talked about Miles Wood and his return. You would think that I would be optimistic about that, but I gave you guys my opinion in the last episode and also the episode before that, talking about how I disagree with the New Jersey Devils bringing Miles Wood back for the end of the season, as I feel as though they should just shut him down for the rest of the year. But we've talked enough about that. So here's what I want to do. I want to lighten the mood a little bit because allaboutthejersey.com recently released an article talking about the future for the New Jersey Devils. And they were basically talking about what I was talking about in the previous episode towards the end of it, which is I was saying that the New Jersey Devils have a very bright future. I know that the results aren't really there. It's not really doing them justice. But at the same time, the diehard New Jersey Devils fans know what this team is capable of doing next year, especially with some of the players that are up and coming, some of the players that are bound to have a comeback year, things of that nature. So once again, guys, let's brighten the mood a little bit. Let me give you guys some hope because it is game day for the New Jersey Devils as they will be taking on the Boston Bruins. So that is going to be a tough opponent for the Devils. So, I don't want to talk bad about them for 3 episodes in a row. I don't want to basically just give you guys little to no hope against the Boston Bruins. I want to lighten the mood and just talk about the positive aspects for the New Jersey Devils. So let's get right into it. So allaboutthejersey.com started off their article by saying that, this has been a complete failure in terms of on-ice results. Now, here's the thing. They're somewhat right about that. So this year, I don't think it was a complete failure. We were just put behind the 8 ball. So we didn't anticipate for Mackenzie Blackwood to have trouble with his heel once again, which, by the way, I'm not sure if I stated this in the last episode. Lindy Ruff expects for Mackenzie Blackwood to get back to on-ice activities starting next week. So maybe we'll see Mackenzie Blackwood when there's only like 5 or so games remaining in the season. But same situation with Miles Wood. I don't really think it's a good idea to bring him back and just, risk getting him hurt again. Maybe we should just shut him down for the rest of the year, but I'll talk about that in a future episode when we have more information. But, going back to what I was saying, that I just don't think it was a complete failure for the New Jersey Devils. We were just put behind the 8 ball. We didn't anticipate Mackenzie Blackwood to get hurt. We didn't anticipate for Jonathan Bernier to get hurt. We didn't anticipate for Dougie Hamilton to be out for nearly 2 months. We had players, including our top 2 players like Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt go on to the COVID protocol list. So overall, I wouldn't say it's a complete failure. We were just never put in a favorable position to win. And then obviously early on in the year, we had our struggles. But, when you have a completely new roster and when you're just trying to incorporate new guys and, Jack Hughes being out for an extended period of time didn't help things either. So Jack Hughes, aside from Jesper Bratt, is one of our best players. And I'm not trying to say that Hughes is a one-man show, but at the same time, he does play a major factor in our success. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But at the same time, I felt as though Jesper Bratt did a decent job of, keeping us afloat, because if it wasn't for Jesper Bratt, we'd definitely be competing for the lottery right now. We'd be competing for the first overall selection in this year's NHL draft if Jesper Bratt also went down with Jack Hughes. But, obviously that didn't happen. But at the same time, guys, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, and Nico Hischier, they're definitely starting to bloom in terms of their overall development at the NHL level. So the one question mark I have is for Jesper Bratt, which is we expect this from Jack Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier. That's what we've been expecting since they are both former first overall picks. But for Jesper Bratt, the expectations for him weren't relatively high. Like coming into the season, I expected Jesper Bratt to be a top 6 player. I expected him to contribute, but I did not anticipate for him to be somewhat of a borderline all-star. And then we're talking about him being one of the more underrated players in the NHL. I did not anticipate that at all. If you were to tell me that at the beginning of the season, I would just say, that's a bit of a stretch. But nonetheless, Jesper Bratt is here, and he definitely deserves that extension with the New Jersey Devils. But the main question mark I have going forward is that, can he, keep up this momentum? Can he keep up this consistency? So that's the one X factor I have in terms of our big three, if you want to call it our young, inexperienced big three. Can Hughes, Bratt, and Hischier remain that consistency? Because I know I can expect it from Hughes and Hischier because that's what we've come to expect from them. But for Bratt, that's the one question mark I have. But nonetheless, guys, I don't think this season was a complete failure for the New Jersey Devils. I just think we were put behind the 8 ball and we were put in an unfavorable position. So yes, we blow leads. Sometimes we lose games that we have no business losing, like that game against the Arizona Coyotes like a month or two ago. I was just like, there is no reason the New Jersey Devils should have lost that game in the first place. But, we're able to compete with the Colorado Avalanche. We're able to compete with the Pittsburgh Penguins. We were able to compete with the Florida Panthers. We were able to compete with the Carolina Hurricanes. So, we were able to come away with some upset victories. And remember, more recently, the New York Rangers as well, because we always play the Rangers close. However, they always come out victorious more times than not. And usually it's decided by a goal or two, or maybe the New Jersey Devils completely fumbled the bag on a defensive play and just had a lapse, or maybe they just didn't capitalize offensively. There's so many factors that go into those games against the Rangers, but I was so glad in our more recent game against the Rangers that we were able to come out victorious and score all those goals. And we scored 5 goals in one period, and usually the second period is not our period, but we made it our period. So overall, allaboutthejersey.com did talk about our, I guess, quote-unquote, young big three of Hughes, Bratt, and Hischier. So the future is bright for the Devils. That's who we're rebuilding around. Those are our players moving forward, mainly with Hughes and Hischier, because I have more faith that they're going to keep up this consistency. They're going to keep up this overall production, because both of them are, now all-stars, because Hischier was an all-star a couple years ago, and then Hughes was an all-star this past season. So I have the utmost faith that Hischier and Hughes could keep up this consistency, but I'm just curious to see what Bratt could potentially do in the future. But here's something that you guys can remain optimistic about. He's leading our team in points by a decent margin. So he has 65 points, and in second place is Jack Hughes with 54. And then he's also leading our team in assists with 43, and Hughes has 30. The only category in terms of scoring that Bratt does not have the lead in is goals, because Hughes recently surpassed him. Hughes has 24, Bratt has 22. So once again, curious to see what Jesper Bratt could do in the future. If he is able to build off of this season, then the league should definitely be put on notice, because he is heavily underrated this year. But if he's able to come back with a statement next year, then guess what? I don't think it'll be out of the ordinary for us to be discussing Jesper Bratt to be a multi-time All-Star in the future. And I think he could punch his ticket to next year's All-Star game. We'll see what happens. But like I said, heavily underrated. Now, here's something that All About the Jersey also talked about. They talked about the disappointing season that the New Jersey Devils are having, but they also talked about some players that were kind of struggling. So they talked about Ty Smith, the goalie situation, and Dougie Hamilton. So, okay, the goalie situation, we've talked enough about. I won't talk about it until I absolutely have to talk about it. And then for Ty Smith, we already know the decline that he's had this season. It's a complete far cry from what he did in his rookie year last year. And now for Dougie Hamilton. See, this is, an interesting topic to talk about, because, I talked to Christy Flannery of the Hockey Writers just recently, and she talked about how, how she feels about Dougie Hamilton and the overall length of his contract. And look, guys, I get it. It's easy to point fingers and just say that Dougie Hamilton might not be worth that huge contract that we gave him this past summer. But the one thing I'm going to say is that you got to factor in that he did have surgery on his face this year, and that put him behind a couple months, because he was sidelined for a long period of time. So before we jump the gun and just say that Dougie Hamilton is going to be a bust and that he's not going to amount to the huge contract that we gave him, because this year he has appeared in 46 games. He has 9 goals, 18 assists for a grand total of 27 points, and he has a plus-minus of -9. So here's the thing. When we compare his stats to last year in his final season with the Carolina Hurricanes, he appeared in 55 games. He had 10 goals, 32 assists for a grand total of 42 points, and he had a plus-minus of plus 20. And the season before, he had a plus minus of plus 30. And now he's gone from that to having a -9. So once again, it's easy to point fingers at Dougie Hamilton and just say that he has completely fallen off to what he did last year. He is not worth this long contract. This is going to be a long few years, or quite honestly, it could be possible that after he plays 3 years with New Jersey Devils, they look to move him. That's what I've been hearing because, he spent 3 seasons with the Hurricanes. He spent 3 seasons with the Bruins. He spent 3 seasons with the Flames. So could we get that deja vu kind of vibe after he completes his 3rd season with the Devils? Maybe he'll be out the door. Look, that's way too far down the line to even think about. But for right now, for this specific season for Dougie Hamilton, I don't think he's been a disappointment, but similar to the New Jersey Devils this season, what's the one thing I've been saying? I've been saying that they've been put behind the 8 ball. So Dougie Hamilton was put behind back in early January when he suffered a facial fracture, had to get surgery, and was sidelined for nearly 2 months. So, wouldn't you be behind if you were thrown into the fire once again? Because he was just put into an unfavorable situation that he couldn't control because he couldn't control getting hurt, and then he had to get surgery, and then like I said, he was out for an extended period of time, so that definitely did put him behind in terms of the overall development that we expected from him. So I'm not going to sit here and just say that Dougie Hamilton, is having a disappointing year. Look, I get that, but it's kind of expected after he suffered that facial fracture, because what's the one thing I said in a more recent episode? There is no such thing as a minor surgery. And I get that Dougie Hamilton's suffering a facial fracture. Maybe that's not as major as maybe getting your arm or your leg or your knee done. But at the same time, it's still surgery, and that's going to put you behind. That's why you got to rehab. That's why you're out for an extended period of time. So once again, I fully believe that Dougie Hamilton come next year or the year after that, he'll be in the running for the Norris Trophy. I genuinely believe that. I get that this season is a complete far cry from what he did last year. He was tops in the Norris Trophy voting. He didn't win it. He lost it to Adam Fox. But I fully believe that at some point during his 7-year stint with the Devils, if all goes well, I think he can potentially win a Norris Trophy and put us over the hump, because I feel as though him, Ryan Graves, Jonas Siegenthaler, and also Damon Severson, they're building something quite decent with our blue line. And wait until we get Luke Hughes, who we'll talk about a little later in this episode, because I think there's something, quite intriguing about our overall defensive structure. We just got to put it together. So that's the one thing I say about our defense, guys. Is it the most consistent defense out in the NHL? Absolutely 100% no. But is it interesting? Yes, it's one of the reasons why I want to bring PK Subban back and then maybe look to move Ty Smith, because, you got PK Subban, a former Norris Trophy winner. Maybe he can be a mentor towards Dougie Hamilton, because Dougie Hamilton is striving to win a Norris Trophy. So I think we have something very interesting with our defense. We just got to put it together, and I fully believe that we'll do it maybe next year, the season after. But we got something brewing with our defense, and we got Siegenthaler back next year. We obviously got Dougie Hamilton back for a long period of time. Then we got Jonas Siegenthaler. He's coming back next year. And then maybe Tom Fitzgerald will bring back PK Subban for a much cheaper deal. But overall, I think our defense is heavily underrated. But at the same time, it deserves to be underrated, if that makes sense. It's just because we haven't really performed up to par. We haven't really helped out our goalies in some circumstances. But at the same time, guys, I think we got something special. We just got to put it together. And once we put it together, especially with what Ryan Graves could do, what Jonas Siegenthaler can do, what Damon Severson has been doing on the offensive side of things, and just doing a boatload of scoring for our defense, I think the New Jersey Devils definitely have something special. But like I said, we just got to find that spark so that way the fire can start, if that makes sense. But before we continue, it's time for the first and only live read this morning, and it comes from our friends at Built Bar. So this is the time of year that I pretty much have given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right. Thanks to Built Bar, it almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you ever tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on Built Bar's best tasting protein bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, and they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. These are going to be your new favorite flavors. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs included. 100% real chocolate, low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Go to built.com, scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. They have so many delicious flavors, including mint brownie, coconut almond, and new this month, white chocolate, cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. If you think a flavor might be good, they'll make it, and it'll be delicious, and it'll be good for you. I don't know how they do it, but somehow and some way, Built Bar is always able to just come through. So the offer is go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 50% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Before we talk about the younger Hughes brother, let's still talk about the middle one because I have to share something interesting with you guys. So according to Corey Masek of The Athletic, he formerly used to write for the New Jersey Devils. Now he covers the San Jose Sharks, but he still shows love to the Devils now and again. So he tweeted this out recently. He said he was looking at something else and stumbled upon this. Jack Hughes is up to 1.14 points per game in his age 20 season. How many guys in the past 30 years have had a 1.10 plus per game at 20 or younger? He tweeted out the names: McDavid, Stamkos twice, Crosby 3 times, Ovechkin, Lindros twice, and Yager. So here's the thing. That's elite company for Jack Hughes to be in, and it should be no surprise that Jack Hughes is averaging over a point per game this season, and it's just amazing, and it just mesmerizes me as to what could have potentially have happened had Jack Hughes not gotten hurt the second game of the year. But better that this has happened early on in the year as compared to now. But Jack Hughes has a lot of momentum going his way, and I'm excited to see what he does come next year. Now, let's talk about his brother, Luke Hughes. It's someone that I haven't really talked about on the show because we're not going to get Luke Hughes for a good while. We're not getting him next year because I think he's fully dedicated to the University of Michigan for at least 2 seasons. But Luke Hughes is having one hell of a year at U of M in Ann Arbor because here's the thing, guys. Luke Hughes was recently named co-freshman of the year in the Big Ten. And this year, Luke Hughes has put up 39 points in 40 game appearances, and he has a plus minus of plus 28. He has 17 goals and 22 assists. No, he is not like his brother. He is not a forward. He is a defenseman. He plays the game 2 ways. He still has to work on the defensive side of things, but I am so excited to see what Luke Hughes brings to this organization when he signs his entry-level deal with the New Jersey Devils. I'm really looking forward to it because someone by the name of Byron Batter tweeted this out. He said that Luke Hughes' star probability has increased from 10% to now 60%, and his NHLer probabilities increased from 62% to 86% after his freshman year with the Wolverines of the University of Michigan. So once again, guys, Luke Hughes, I'm really excited to see what this kid could potentially do. It's going to be a scary duo of him on the blue line and his brother running and gunning and helping out the forwards around him. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they could potentially do for the New Jersey Devils with years to come. And like I told you guys, it's not out of the realm of possibilities to get Quinn Hughes to join the organization. However, we're going to have to wait a few more years when he becomes an unrestricted free agent. But if all goes well with Luke Hughes, if he's on the same trajectory as he is on currently, because like I said, he's doing really well at the University of Michigan. So if he's able to translate that into the NHL, then I don't see any reason why the New Jersey Devils won't give him a huge contract after a year or two if he plays at the NHL level and is able to reach that success. So and then you got his older brother Jack, who is signed long term. So once again, it is possible that once Quinn Hughes becomes an unrestricted free agent, then maybe the Devils can convince him to sign over to the Devils and just team up with both his brothers. And then you got the Hughes trio brothers out there. Like I said, not trying to give you guys any false hope. And the reason I haven't really been talking about Luke Hughes is because, like I said, I think he's committed to playing at least 2 seasons with the University of Michigan Wolverines. But we'll see what happens. I don't think there's any convincing him out of maybe just foregoing the rest of his college eligibility, because right now the Wolverines are participating in the Frozen Four. And here's the thing. They are building a dynasty out there at U of M. I talked to one of their players during the offseason by the name of Jack Summers. He said that everybody was just big on running it back and just playing on the team once again. That's why, you see Owen Power, Matt Beniers, Luke Hughes just, not in a rush to sign their entry-level deals quite yet. For right now, they're just focused on just trying to bring home a national title to Ann Arbor. So that's what their main focus is, and then they'll try to translate that to the NHL level. And I have respect for them for doing so. And like I said, they're just trying to run it back and build something special. But we'll see what happens with Owen Power and Matt Beniers if nothing has already happened. But I know the situation for Luke Hughes, which is he has not signed his entry-level deal, and it seems like he's focused on playing at least 2 seasons up in Ann Arbor. So we'll see what happens. But overall, guys, just trying to get you guys excited about Luke Hughes. But at the same time, I'm just trying to, tell you it's still going to be a while before we see him in a Devils uniform. And hopefully, I'm fingers crossed that he's able to just reach that star probability like I saw in that more recent tweet. So we'll see what happens. But another player that I want to talk about is Alexander Holtz, because he's been lighting it up in Utica, and I am more than excited to see him potentially play alongside with Nico Hischier in the top 6 for the New Jersey Devils. So here's the thing about Alexander Holtz. We know what he's capable of doing. However, in the few games that he's played at the NHL level this season, he hasn't really been able to showcase his talents, but it's there because you see him doing the same thing for Utica, what he was able to do in Sweden. So the potential is there, the growth is there, but the situation wasn't there for Alexander Holtz this year, or at least an ideal one. We kind of just put him in the fire. We put him wherever we could possibly fit him, and unfortunately it just didn't work out, and it was just unfair to him and his overall development because he wasn't able to get into a groove. He looked lost out there at times, and it just looked like he had trouble fitting in. But I fully anticipate once we carve out a bigger role for him come next year, once we move Dawson Mercer around, because right now we're moving Mercer to a winger position, and I feel like that's a better situation for Mercer, just so he's not like running the third or the bottom 6 by himself on a sole line. I feel as though putting Mercer on a winger position, especially with either Hischier or Hughes, can definitely help benefit him. And that's just the situation that Alexander Holtz kind of needs, because he needs to be able to find a position in which he's able to just fit in, so that way we're not wasting his talent. But the talent is there, the development is there, and I'm excited to see what Alexander Holtz could potentially do once again, because I feel as though he is definitely all-star capable. He has a nasty sniper, and I feel as though the New Jersey Devils have definitely struck gold with Holtz, because we saw how special he was during the course of preseason. And I said, it's quite possible that both he and Mercer would have gotten the final roster spots. Unfortunately, the Devils felt as though Mercer was more ready than Holtz, and they'd wanted to give Holtz opportunities on special teams. Unfortunately, it couldn't come at the NHL level, and this season he was just better suited in Utica. And quite honestly, I can't argue that, because I said either Mercer or Holtz will make the final roster spot, and then one of them is going to light it up in Utica, and then it's not going to harm their development, and then ultimately we have a ready player for next year, and just adds more options to our line combinations. And he ranks second to Jack Quinn for top 15 AHL rookies in games scored per game played. You have to play in a minimum of 25 games, and Holtz has played in 38, and his games scored per games played is 1.04. So his development is definitely heading in the right direction. I'm excited to see what he does next year, because I fully anticipate for him to make the roster, be a full-time player, and play in his official rookie year, and then put his name into the running for the Calder Memorial Trophy race. But anything can happen for the Devils come next year. And like I told you guys, I wanted to keep this episode lively. I wanted to keep it optimistic. And let me know what you guys think about the overall development for the New Jersey Devils, because I talked briefly about it in yesterday's episode in the final segment, and now I decided to make it a full-fledged episode, basically to shine some light and just, create some positivity, and just, give you guys some hope moving forward for the Devils organization, because their record doesn't do them justice, but we know what they're capable of doing come next year. So let me know what you guys think about the overall development. And once again, guys, I have now surpassed 100 subscribers, so a deal is a deal. Keep an eye out for an upcoming giveaway, just to show my token of appreciation for your guys' support, and let's continue to grow Locked On Devils on YouTube. And leave a comment down below as to what you think about the overall development for the Devils. And if you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on Twitter at TreyMatt4, or the show's Twitter page at Locked On Devils. And just to give you guys an FYI, I will be traveling when this episode goes live. I'll actually be getting ready for a flight to go to New Orleans, Louisiana, to go to the Final Four. So I'm looking forward to that, but I do want to give you guys a disclaimer. I will be staying in an Airbnb, so the Wi-Fi might be more secure and more up to date compared to a hotel Wi-Fi, because I remember I was in Vegas and the Wi-Fi was very spotty. I couldn't upload anything to YouTube. I was able to upload, to the podcast streaming service, but not to YouTube. So once again, just giving you guys that warning that I am traveling once again. So we'll see what happens. But as for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you guys. So continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. And I'll catch you guys in the next episode. And if you see me in Louisiana, drop by and say hi. Once again, going to the Final Four. Looking forward to it. So I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.